Now when choosing your first tarot deck, try to stick with something that's reasonably basic and easy to interpret. But if it doesn't speak to you, then don't waste your money on it, because it isn't going to do you any good. Now, the standard deck you're typically going to see is either called the Rider deck or the Rider-Waite tarot deck. This is the one that most tarot readers tend to use if they're writing a book as their basic demonstration deck. And it's the one with a lot of very traditional symbolism, and it's fairly easy to read. The pictures are simple, the meanings are clear. It does draw upon some ritual magic symbolism, but not enough that you would find it confusing as a general rule. However, a lot of people don't like this deck. I took the advice of the tarot book that I read when I first started, and I got myself a copy of this, and it didn't do anything for me. So it's a good basic place to start. But now here I have a few different decks. One thing to keep in mind is do not confuse a tarot deck with an oracle deck. The difference is there is a format to the tarot. It has 78 cards. It has major arcana and minor arcana. It has court cards. Now there's different names for them, right? Traditionally it'll be the king, the queen, the knight, and the page, but sometimes you'll get different variations of that. It's okay. It doesn't matter. Either way, it's still a traditional tarot deck. On the other hand, for an oracle deck, it generally has its own system of cards and meanings. This one, for example, has different animals and their different symbolism in Celtic mythology. It's a really great deck. I like it. Own a copy, not a tarot deck. So, now a couple of decks that I tend to recommend for people. This is one of the good ones. This is the Hanson Robert Tarot. The pictures are very colorful. The faces of the people are lively. The expressions are fairly easy to read, which is something that is a criticism of the Rider-Waite tarot deck. A lot of people don't like it because they're hard to read what the people are thinking. But it sticks with generally your traditional Rider-Waite format. So, another good one that way is the Morgan Greer tarot deck. So this is also really good along that line. If the art and style appeals to you more, then maybe you'll like this better. I don't find the people as expressive, but maybe that appeals to you. It is clearer in a lot of its symbols. Right. Now, the one I use is the Robin Wood Tarot, which again is generally a basic Rider-Waite format tarot deck, except that it has a lot of Wiccan symbolism that I personally like, and I also like the artwork. So, another common deck you'll see is called the Thoth deck by Aleister Crowley, and it's a good deck, but it tends to be complicated and difficult to understand, so I wouldn't start with it, unless of course you have a background in the writings of Aleister Crowley and ritual magic, in which case maybe it makes sense. Right, try to avoid things like this. Now, I love this tarot deck. This is the Dragon Tarot. It has, see, here's an example of the kinds of pictures that it has here. This is their Ace of Wands, and it's got beautiful artwork, lots of really neat dragon pictures in it, but it deviates a great deal from the traditional symbolism, so it can be confusing. Another one, I don't know, there's different vampire and gothic tarots. They tend to go fairly off the traditional mark, so they're not a good thing to start with. They're pretty, by all means collect them, but I wouldn't start with them when you're learning to read tarot. Now, there's generally a thought that a deck is more powerful if it's given to you as a gift. This might be true. If somebody does give you a tarot deck, great. But most people will not receive a tarot deck as a gift, so you can't avoid doing it just because nobody has given you a tarot deck yet. Maybe you're meant to pick out one for yourself. You'll generally find that sooner or later somebody will gift you with a tarot deck if they see you playing with your tarot and getting into it a lot. So that's cool. There was something else I was going to add. Oh yes, try to make sure that you're getting all the cards. A lot of things which are sold as novelty tarot decks, especially in bookstores that are not metaphysical type shops, you'll find just the major arcana, which is fine. It's a good study tool, but it's not sufficient for a proper reading, and it's not a traditional tarot deck. It's not the whole thing. So most of the time when you go to buy a tarot deck, you'll find that people have taken the actual cards out of the boxes because it deters theft. People pocket boxes of tarot cards and walk out with them all the time. So you may have to go and ask at the front counter of wherever you're buying about them, and they still might be wrapped up in plastic, so you might not be able to leaf through them and determine if you like them. If you see something in the store that you think you like, my advice is go online, Google search it or something. Check it out, because usually you'll find online somebody has scanned the whole deck, and you'll get an idea of what all the pictures are about. And I guess that's it for my advice about picking out your tarot deck.